Coaches really are in a tough position. I've been thinking about that a lot recently, Coca. And I don't like that I have to think so often about the Cleveland Browns. I really don't. I would just as soon never talk about them or think about them ever again until they get rid of Deshaun Watson, which I don't know that they ever will because it requires the owner to acknowledge that he made a critical mistake. I used to think that the mistake was in signing Watson because of what he did off the field. And the funny part is, the mistake turns out to be what he does on the field. There's a whole lot going on right now for Jimmy Haslam. He's got Watson, who his coach came out and said our best chance to win is with Deshaun Watson. He's got the lawsuit that we covered the other day going on because he wants to move out of downtown Cleveland. And he's worried about the possibility of the Modell law stopping him from doing that, making him sell the team. None of that's actually going to happen. Go listen to our segment. I don't remember what day. But then on the field, Watson got hurt, and the Browns had to start Winston. And do you know what happened that's really funny? Is that Winston threw for over 300 yards, had a really good game, and is not a bad guy at all. Do you think that any of us think that Stefanski still thinks that Watson gives the Browns a better chance to win? Do you know that Watson started 19 games for the Browns? And do you know how many 300-yard passing days he's had? 0. Joe Flacco, backup quarterback last year. Jameis Winston, backup quarterback this year. They're 6 out of 7 in games they've started with 300-yard passing days. Think about that. It's almost insane. Deshaun Watson used to be good when he was on the Texans back in the 2020 season. Remember when he threw for like 370 yards the first week of January in 21? They beat the Titans. They lost to the Titans, but he threw 3 TDs. That's before he sat out the year because he didn't want to play for Houston. And that's before he was suspended by the Browns in the NFL for the first 11 games when he started with the Browns because of all the stuff that went on off the field. And there's still new lawsuits and things happening today. Oh, and by the way, it's way easier to deal with when you're performing. But he's not. So now you're in a position as a coach where you have to keep carrying the water for your owner while begging your owner to find a way to move on from this player. What is our best opportunity? He's untradeable. His contract of $230 million. He's got cap hits of like $75 million. He's got cash payroll of $60 million. There is no team, not one. Forget a second-round pick. I'm talking about a 9th-round pick. I'm talking about a 29th-round pick. Wait a minute. Maybe a 69th-round pick if they don't have to pay him $1. No, not even that. Not one of 31 teams will trade for Deshaun Watson. You could release him and just have him play in a different league, maybe the XFL, maybe the California Penal League with Charlie Sheen. But in terms of what you can do with him in the NFL, your options are the opposite of Bradley Cooper's in Limitless. So what do? I go to Jimmy Haslam and I say, hey, I know that I said we can't, win without him. He's our best chance, but you made me do that. Don't you think? Look at what we did here. Look what we can do here without that distraction. It's not like we have a schlepper. We have the ability to identify quarterbacks and to really turn this franchise around. We're moving to a new stadium, aren't you, Jimmy? Aren't you in the middle of trying to look good to Cleveland fans because you're trying to get public money? Why are we going to continue to go to bat for a player whose issues off field basically pale in comparison? And this is not me talking because they don't pale in comparison to me, but this is how coach would talk. They pale in comparison to his issues on field. And then Jimmy Haslam, the owner, looks at Kevin and says, well, I think he could be coached better. Wait to see is when we tell you something's going to happen. If it does, great. If it doesn't, fine. I'll give you a wait to see about Deshaun Watson. You can book this one on October 29th. When Deshaun Watson's healthy, he's going to be the starter again. Jimmy Haslam is far too stubborn to admit how wrong he was both on and off the field. There are too few options to do anything, and believe me, they're not going to just cut ties. Although maybe there's 3 more lawsuits that could be filed, and maybe that would do it. I mean, maybe the first 20 didn't do it, and then Haslam says, that's it. 25 lawsuits, that's my limit. They all sound the same, and it seems like you've done the same thing all those times. Forget it. Now I am laying down the gauntlet. The goblet? The gauntlet. See you later. Now, wait to see. Watson will start again for Browns when healthy.